Hey, Brandon Hoffman here, and I thought I would do a quick video on the contract to close process when you're buying or selling a house, because my chili's a little too hot and it burned my mouth, so when I get done it should be cool and ready to go. Alright, make sure you go ahead and subscribe and like so you get the first new content. So we're going to start. Step one is your ratified contract. Your buyer and your seller have agreed to terms. Now let's assume that's going to be an estimated closing date at that point. We want to meet that closing date. It makes everyone's life a little easier, but it doesn't always happen because a closing has a lot of moving parts, especially if there's a mortgage involved. So if there is a mortgage involved, as soon as you get that ratified contract, you want to get everybody moving in the process. So we're going to send a copy of the contract to your attorney or title company, if you're a title company state, to the mortgage lender if there's a loan involved, and anybody else that needs a copy of that. At that point, as agents, or if you're a buyer representing yourself, you're going to go ahead and schedule your inspections. If you're getting a survey done, you can get a survey done, and you can notify your insurance company that you're buying a house. These are places where we tend to run into issues, so the sooner you can get these done, the better. As soon as your attorney receives, or title company receives, the contract and the order from the lender, they're going to go ahead and order your title work, make sure the house is free and clear of any liens or encumbrances. So at closing, they can make sure everything is paid off. Now, your lender is going to go ahead and start working on your loan at this point. This is the most complicated part of the process. There's a lot of people involved. They're going to order the appraisal. The appraisal is one area where sometimes you run into an issue if it appraises short, or if the appraiser sometimes requires extra repairs to be done. The inspections are completed. At that point, you get everything back, and you'll negotiate any repairs you want done. There's different ways to do it. You can ask for a price reduction. You can ask for an allowance of some sort towards repairs. You can negotiate a higher price in exchange for repairs. Just make sure if there's any term changes to the contract at this point, you notify the lender. I actually have that issue going on one right now where the buyer's agent, we represent the seller. The buyer's agent forgot to notify the lender that the price went up based on some repairs, who in turn didn't notify the appraiser or give them the updated contract with the terms. And now here we are a day before closing trying to get this resolved because the buyer's agent didn't do the appropriate follow-up or make sure that everyone had the work they needed. All right, so you get your repair addendum negotiated, everyone agrees, seller does repairs. At that point, you're going to want to do a re-inspect if you're the buyer. If you're the seller, you want to make sure all the repairs are done, assuming there's going to be a re-inspection. At this point, the underwriter should have collected all their documents. If you're the buyer, this is where you're going to be frustrated because usually 3, 4, 5 times they've come back and asked you for some additional supporting documents. You can't argue with these guys. You just have to give them what they ask for, and the sooner you do that, the more likely you are to close on time. And at this point, your closing should be scheduled. The underwriter clears everything. They have everything they need. You're now clear to close. They send it to the closing department. Your closing department is going to put together all your loan package and send it to the attorney or title company, and then they're going to prepare all the closing documents for signature. At this point, and at this point too, you should have already set up your utilities. I would wait to do the utility transfer until you get clear to close. If you're the seller, you schedule the utilities to be off. I think it's a nice gesture to do the day after closing to make sure the buyer has a chance to transfer the sewer, the water, the electric, and anything else they might need to. Also, if you're the seller, you have to leave utilities on according to our contract for inspections. So the last inspection is the final walkthrough done right before closing to make sure the house is conveying in the same condition. So at that point, the utilities can be turned off the day after closing. If you're the buyer, make sure you call all the utility companies you can ahead of time and get them turned on. Our local water department is a nightmare to deal with, so that might be something you have to do when you actually get your closing statement, which is why the seller, it's a nice gesture to leave it on until the day after closing at least. At that point, everyone goes into the attorney or title company's office. You sign your closing documents. If you're the buyer, congratulations. You get the keys and some new debt. And if you're the seller, congratulations. Hopefully you're getting a check. Sometimes sellers don't always get a check back. Sometimes you're bringing it, but at that point, at least you no longer own a house. So I'll do a follow-up to this, talking about some pitfalls to be aware of during the transaction. In the meanwhile, again, Brandon Hoffman. If you have a question or comment, drop it below and I'll try to respond to it. And make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.